It has been about 1 year since the Myanmar military began what aid groups, UN officials, and governments have denounced as a brutal campaign of ethnic cleansing. Hundreds of thousands of Rohingya people have been forced to escape to Bangladesh. In addition to reports of murder and torture, aid organizations say there were widespread cases of women and girls raped by Myanmar's security forces as they fled the country. All claims Myanmar's military denies. Some of these women are now talking publicly about their painful stories, and our Alexandra Field has them for you.
In these vast refugee camps in Bangladesh, many women and girls harbor a painful secret. They are survivors of what the UN calls widespread sexual violence against the Rohingya, allegedly carried out by the military in Myanmar last year. Rape was, quote, a calculated tool to force them from their homes. Claims the government denies. More than 9 months on, a number of babies have been born as the result of rape. Little Yasmin was delivered in June. Her mother, Meher, says she was raped by soldiers who set fire to her village in September.
They demanded to rape me in exchange for sparing my children's life. I agreed to them.
Filled with shame, Meher tried to keep what happened from her husband.
I told my children not to tell their father about the incident, but they did anyway. Because of that, my husband wanted a divorce. But he couldn't leave me as I had no parents.
Women who survive rape in this community risk being shunned even by their families. For Meher, the baby would be a painful reminder of the horrors left behind.
I tried a lot to abort this child, but abortion was not possible. I went to the nurse and took pills for abortion, but they didn't work as they were supposed to.
Around 60 babies are born to Rohingya women in refugee camps in Bangladesh each day, according to UNICEF. The number of pregnancies resulting from rape is unknown.
Some, I'm told, are hiding their pregnancies, but I'm also told that many are simply having deliveries in their home, in their camp, unattended, or sometimes with local midwives.
Meher gave birth alone in this small bamboo shack. She and her husband have now forged a bond with their new child in these most difficult of circumstances.
Yes, I love her. My husband also loves her now, though he couldn't accept her at first. He adores the baby when she smiles and plays.
But the worry for some is the stigma these children could face when they grow up.
The greatest concern of the babies left behind is that they could grow up with a stigma or a label attached to them, which is the last thing we'd like to see for these babies.
For Yasmin, this could be one of the many challenges she'll face in the years ahead as she learns to call this refugee camp home. Alexandra Field, CNN.
CNN asked Myanmar's government for a response to this story. Here's what a spokesman said. There was no evidence that Myanmar soldiers committed any human rights violations in their response to the terrorist attacks of 2017. We have recently formed a new independent commission which will investigate alleged rights abuses in Rakhine State, including rape. We will treat any case in accordance with the rule of law. Kerry Kennedy is the president of the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Human Rights, which has been working in Myanmar for the past 5 years. Kerry is just back from the camps in Bangladesh. And Kerry, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Great to be with you.
Sure. I can't imagine the experience that you've just had, but you conveyed it in a unique way. You wrote a letter to your 2 daughters about your experience at the camps, and you shared stories from many of the women you met that are utterly heartbreaking. Here's one. I want to read it from it. You wrote, S told us she was raped by multiple soldiers. She said she is always in pain and is still bleeding. Then she lifted her dress and showed us the fresh blood on her slip. And Kerry, sadly, that is but one sickening story, and there are thousands of others, aren't there?
There are. You know, when we were in the refugee camps in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, we spoke to over 30 refugees who had crossed the border, who had survived that genocide and those crimes against humanity perpetrated by the military in Myanmar against the Rohingya population. And they told us about their whole villages being burned down. They told us about massive rape of women, slaughter of men and little children who are running away. One talked about seeing a baby being thrown into a bonfire. Just very, very, very tough.
Let's talk about the trauma of that and what they're experiencing. They're still in a horrible place, and they've just witnessed just unspeakable crimes and unspeakable things happening to their family members and their children right in front of them. Tell us about the trauma they continue to experience.
Well, you know, this is a camp that is, imagine the size of 18 golf courses, 18 hole golf courses. Pretty big space. Now imagine fitting the entire population of San Francisco on those golf courses, on those 18 golf courses. That is Cox's Bazar. That's the size of it. And 1 million people, the schooling goes up to 5th grade. So you have this entire population of people, the Rohingya people, who have fled these massive human rights violations. They're living in plastic tents made of sticks with plastic tarps on top of them. There's not one 2-story building. So they're just, you know, living cheek to jowl across this area. We were there during the height of the monsoon season.
Right.
And monsoons in most places last 15 minutes. But these monsoons last an hour and a half. So it's like standing under a shower. But you're outside and it's taking full swaths of the camp away.
Right. The question is, who will be held responsible? Last month, your group issued a report that Myanmar's military systematically planned to rid the country of Rohingya Muslims, in other words, a genocidal plan. Last week, Myanmar's military commanders were hit with U.S. sanctions. And here's the statement from the U.S. The U.S. government is committed to ensuring that Burmese military units and leaders reckon with and put a stop to these brutal acts. We will continue to systematically expose and bring accountability to human rights abusers in this region and many others, and greatly appreciate the efforts of civil society who are doing the same. So, Kerry, is there any evidence those sanctions will be enough to achieve the outcome of ending the brutality and holding those responsible accountable?
Well, I think it's a good first step. There's only 4. The Fortified Rights Report names 22 members of the military and the police. There were over 900 police in the slaughter and 11,000 members of the military. So for the U.S. government to only point to 4, I don't think that's quite good enough. I think that, you know, the Security Council needs to refer this to the International Criminal Court. The people of Myanmar, the military government there, needs to hold the perpetrators responsible for these horrific crimes against humanity. And the international community needs to invoke the International Magnitsky Act, which freezes access and stops the perpetrators from being allowed to do business with our countries or travel to our countries. And I think that that's a good first step.
Well, yes, we'll celebrate that first step. We certainly hope there's a second, because through it all, the Rohingya say they just want to go back home, and they deserve that. Kerry Kennedy with the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Human Rights, thank you so much for your time and for your work.
Thank you.